Welcome everyone to the AdMonsters webinar. Before we get things started, I'm gonna give everyone about a minute to kind of settle in. Make sure as you come into the chat, say hi, introduce yourself. We just want to see who we're talking to. Perfect. And if anyone missed that, I was just saying, welcome to the chat. As you enter, just make sure to say hi in the public chat, just so we can see who we're talking to, and I'll get started just in a couple seconds. I see Rob started off also with our first hi.
It's like, did that work? It worked. Cool.
Hey, Horace. Hey, Seth. Thanks for joining us. Shakira, great. See people coming in and welcoming. So I'll get things popped off now. Welcome again, everyone, to AdMonsters webinar, Breaking Free from GAM, How Publishers Can Take Back Control, Performance, and Profitability. Thank you for joining us. And as I said, if you missed it, make sure to say hi in the chat to introduce yourself again. For years, Google Ad Manager has been the cozy default, familiar, safe, always there. But sometimes what feels like comfort can quietly become a cage. Today, we're here to talk about breaking out of that cage, not with the loud bang, but with a savvy plan, sharp tools, and some real-world success stories. Pictures ad operations as a ship. Sure, GAM's current has carried you far. But what if you can infer your own sales and chart a course that puts your business, not Google's, at the center of the map? That's what we're exploring today. We're bringing together two captains who've actually navigated these waters. Rob Janes, head of product at AdButler, and Seth Baer, director of operations at Boats Group, whose team recently completed their own journey from dependency to independence. We'll spotlight why AdX isn't the publisher safety net it once seemed, uncover the true cost of data dependence, and lay out the playbook for how you can migrate safely to a world of transparency, real control, and bigger business opportunity. And of course, we'll take out the guesswork, sharing how publishers like Boats.com have already made the leap, what they learned, and what changed. And also, as we finish the session, make sure we'll have a Q&A session at the end. Make sure to put those questions in the Q&A chat, and we'll answer those immediately for you. And now, Rob and Seth, take it away.
Cool. I guess I'll go first. Hey, everybody. Rob Janes, head of product over here at AdButler. I've got Seth, who's joining us today, and we're going to kind of run through some things about how they moved over from Google and what kind of spurred on that decision-making process. That intro paragraph that was just read, I didn't realize how many seafaring jokes were in that. Yeah, so good on you. I should have read it beforehand, but yeah, there was a lot of little quips there. That was great. Anyway, yeah, I'm not one to sit here and read through a bunch of slides. I find that's a little boring. But yeah, the whole purpose of this is to kind of educate some people here in terms of what process is involved in getting away from Google Ad Manager, right? They've kind of been the flagship, the gold standard for ad serving for a long time. There's been other options that are out there, but usually people are so married to that AdX revenue, it's really hard to justify moving away from Google Ad Manager. But there are a lot of other conveniences and nice to haves that you get, like server-side ad injection and things like that. That's really useful. This is going to be more of like a fireside sort of thing. So by all means, guys, in the chat, like feel free to interrupt us if you have questions as we're going, because living by the seat of my pants is exactly how I'm going to operate this webinar as well. And Seth, I see you giggling, but so I'm going to jump right in. So again, like this is kind of the agenda. We're setting the stage here. We'll talk a little bit about moving away from that AdX revenue and things, but let's also not ignore the elephant in the room that, knock on wood, we all know Google is currently in court, and we'll see what the future holds in terms of AdX and if they have to divest GAM, and fingers crossed. But I digress. That's a different conversation. But yeah, I guess we'll kind of move on to the next slide here and get started. So again, not one to read slides, but Seth, what made you kind of decide, from the Boats Group point of view, because I know you guys have been using Google for years. What made you decide to look around for alternatives? Like, what was that? Why? The why is the question.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we had worked with GAM. I mean, like I've been with Boats Group for almost 21 years. And pretty much my entire time, we've used GAM. So we started looking for potential alternatives, and I would say that the primary driver, I mean, one was site speed that the server side solution was able to give us. Right, we're a marketplace, and we want to focus on usability for our consumers, and then driving value to everyone who is a part of our marketplace. So that was probably like 1A, and I would say 1B was looking for a more flexible solution. And we'll talk about this probably a little bit more as we go on, but the programmatic side of things for us had shrunk over time. Based on things we put in packages and the way we were using to add real estate on our sites, our dependency on programmatic revenue continued to shrink. So we really shifted gears towards what we can offer our endemic customers that advertise with us. And ultimately, while the site speed was great, that's probably what ultimately helped us make the decision and to partner with Rob, is the flexibility that we were able to get in working with AdButler.
Cool. Yeah. And that's something I kind of hear quite a bit, right? Like, whether you go to a conference or anything like that, people are programmatic isn't going anywhere, right? I've been saying that I wanted to die for a decade, but it's not going to happen. Programmatic is not going anywhere. We all know that. But I have found that a lot of publishers are switching to more like programmatic guaranteed deals or PMPs or some sort of, I'm going to use a buzzword in the industry, but like curated packages, right? Like this open web is sort of dead. Now it's like you can still run everything through programmatic pipes, but you're working more with your brands and your agencies directly, which is great. I mean, we've kind of come full circle. We've made the way of getting from point A to point B better, but we've kind of a little bit come full circle there, and I love it. I'm just gonna quickly move on to the next slide here. Whoops, my bad. Too many clicks. Yeah. So you mentioned that programmatic was kind of like petering off. It wasn't such a big part. Now I do know that you have. Can you tell us a little bit about the Boats Group just overall? Like how many domains do you have? Like where do you spend most of your time in terms of direct deals and programmatic, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have numerous marketplaces across the globe. So we have in North America, our three big brands are Boat Trader, Yacht World, and Boats.com, and then we have some additional sites in Europe as well. Too many to name, but all focused on the same thing, right? We are obviously in the marine space, and the thing that we do best and that we're passionate about is creating a marketplace that enables boaters to get on the water, right? So that's the most important part for us. No matter where you're at in the world, we help that, right? And again, as with most marketplaces, for a very long time, again, you have ads on the site, and we use programmatic and a mixture of direct sold that helps to add additional value to our customers who are listing their boats in our marketplace. For a very long time, programmatic was a large part of what we did. And again, over time, we got better and more efficient at selling direct deals and putting folks in the right place. And then again, we started with some of our packaging, including some display in that. And with that, again, the programmatic piece of the pie shrunk quite a bit. And, to the point where it was let's really focus on what we're able to deliver our customer base, both the folks that are listing and the folks coming to the site searching for their next boat. So we really focused on what that product offering is. And for a long time, we were just very traditional display, 300 by 250 ad units. But what we wanted to bring to the industry was a better solution, a more high performance solution, which is native ads. And we were kind of unable to sort of do both while we made that transition easily with GAM, which is, again, sort of where we came to you, Rob, and had a lot of conversations to figure out what you could help us build that would give us the flexibility to offer our customer kind of exactly what they needed at the right time.
Yeah. I got a question. Was there any like skepticism about moving away from GAM and Google products? I mean, I remember this old, I can't remember if it was a commercial, but it was like nobody gets fired for buying IBM. I don't know if anybody remembers that, or if I'm dating myself. And like Google and Google Ad Manager seems to be like kind of the same thing. It's right. Nobody's going to get fired for picking Google Ad Manager, right? So was there any skepticism? Did you have to sell that internet? Like how did that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it would be silly for me to say that there wasn't. I mean, obviously, Google Ad Manager is the big boy in the room, right? And again, they do plenty of things really well, and they're consistent. But again, they sort of are what they are. So, I would go back to, we made the initial choice years and years ago. We had a former parent company, and we were transitioning. When we initially chose GAM, it was sort of like the only choice, right? Like we didn't even have much of a conversation. It was just, like we're building out our own ad tech stack. We're going to transition to, sure, it's GAM. Absolutely. And again, it's consistent, what you're getting. And so from that perspective, it was great. But, I think there was a little bit of undercurrent. And again, the biggest kind of driver that started pushing us to really, truly start looking to make that leap was, again, just site latency and wanting to continue every day, that having a highly performance site that has, good UX, but also the page load is really fast is what's most important, because driving value for those marketplace customers, like I've said a couple of times, is everything to us. So, it took some conversations and some great presentations with Rob and his team and our group internally. But, we decided that, to take the leap, and, have been happy since we did.
Awesome. Yeah. And I appreciate all the shout outs to me and my team. I think the main takeaway I want to get for publishers here in general, and I love the AdButler shout outs, don't get me wrong, right? But the takeaway here is you don't have to be married to GAM. There are other ad servers out there, right? So again, you should always call AdButler, obviously, right? But the goal here is people don't be married to GAM, right?
Most certainly. I guess what I would say is, and there's obviously there's other competitors to you in the market, and I think they all do great things as well. And I think the one thing that I want to call out, and maybe we're going to get to this later, but I'm going to call it out now. One of the things that we've loved the most is just the partnership that we've been able to have at the level at which, like, we feel like we're true partners together. As with any new spin up, or any new onboarding, rather, you're going to run into challenges and unforeseen things. And again, Rob is on calls with us, a couple of times a week, helping us figure things out. It's a true partnership. So just something I'm really excited about, and something that's been helped validate our decision is that, that service that we were able to get in that partnership has been, unmatched, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a Fortune 100, it's really hard to get on a call with Google, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So one of the slides that we'd kind of put together here was around, like, data and stuff like that. I mean, this is going to be a complete, curveball out here, but were there ever data concerns using Google Ad Manager? Like, some people do, some people don't. And I've heard things in the past where, I don't think it applies to Boats Group, but there is a world in which you can get like Google Ad Manager for free, but you're basically paying with your data, right? Was a data ownership thing like a deciding factor at all? Because I'm not to be confused with the data targeting and first party audience targeting, which we will talk about in a little bit, and like, using that first party data. But was there anything specifically around like data ownership that was concerned? And feel free to say no. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, look, we're always, we're a data-driven company, but that wasn't certainly a driving part of our decision-making. I would say from my perspective, having years of experience, one of the things that a little bit of additional sort of data transparency is, especially when we were still hyper-focused on programmatic, a lot of times it was hard to get to the exact data points that you wanted to help make decisions for you. So that's something that I was never really a huge fan of, is that I always seemed to be like one step away from being able to get what I wanted, but couldn't quite get the data point that I was looking for. So, but yeah, in terms of the reason we made the decision, that wasn't a primary driving factor for us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I just noticed too, James had a question in chat and he was asking, what specifically causes GAM not to perform, well with a page speed point of view. I can talk a little bit about what I know, and then maybe Seth, you might be able to answer in terms of like why you guys decided to go server side. The main thing that I typically hear, from other publishers and things like that is the call chain itself. You've got kind of like multiple DNS lookups and handshakes that happen because you've got your publisher, then it goes to like the Google tag services, the syndication, and then over to DoubleClick. Their GPT JS tag, I think, is like 200 kilobytes, and it's like 200 kilobytes minified, right? And it's very CPU intensive. Anybody can notice that. Like if you go on to a website that has a bunch of GAM tags, you'll notice your CPU usage spikes, your fans kick in from your computer, things like that. They're very good at it is asynchronous, so it doesn't affect your Lighthouse scores that much. It doesn't affect, your SEO and that sort of stuff. But in terms of just overall latency from point A to point B and how quickly your page loads, and how quickly the ads render on the page, there is a significant, it's not uncommon to wait, a second to 3 seconds for ads to load versus, you go with a server side ad call and your ad is rendered to the content before the page ever loads, and you've got, 100 milliseconds response time. But that does lead into a good question. Like, what made you guys decide to go server side? Seth, like you went to improve speed. Did you find that it's making a difference?
Yeah, for sure. And I can't come to you with the metrics from our engineering and infrastructure team, but I just know that they were always on my case, right? Like obviously, as most sites were hyper focused on the amount of time it takes for our content to load, and that was a very long narrative in terms of, there's ads on the site where your ads take forever to load. They're hurting my page load time. How can we fix that? And, after going through years and years of arguments, it's like, well, look, if you go server side, you're going to be able to improve that latency. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, we look at, full page load time till all the content is loaded, and it had a fairly significant impact on our overall performance. So, and again, you see sort of the knock on when you're looking at overall site performance and bounce rate and all those fun things. It's not like we saw, a 200% improvement, but there was marked improvement from just having a overall faster page load time. So that was a big benefit for us.
Awesome. Cool. I kind of moving along, just somehow we're already at 18 minutes into this webinar already. Yeah. So like in that move, let's say, so the move away from Google Ad Manager, and now you've vetted other vendors and you've decided where to go with, what did that strategy look like now when you were coming up, especially in the operations point of view, right? How did you decide to plan out that we're going to, what's step 1, what's step 2, what's step 3, what's step 4? How did you piecemeal that together?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest concern for us, I mean, I think probably the first step, if I'm remembering this correctly, it's only been even less than a year, but it seems like a long time ago. Time flies when you're having fun. It was really, first of all, was making sure that we had the taxonomy set up properly. So that was the biggest concern out of the gate, is making sure, what do we have now? What do we want it to be? How do we want it to be named? Again, because we were looking for some of the flexibility in terms of being able to deliver traditional display or native in the same ad slot. We were very, honed in on making sure that we set up all the ad tags appropriately and had that where it was consistent across the board.
And if I remember, you had like thousands of campaigns or something like this, and because I'm just trying to refresh my memory now, but there was a way we basically exported to CSV and all of those things, and then wrote a script to import. Yeah, there were some pain points in getting off, but yeah, that was the taxonomy was one, and then 2 came the panic of, oh man, we have a lot of campaigns that we run for our direct customers.
we have a fairly small ad ops team, a great ad ops team, but a fairly small one. How are we going to get all these moved over? But it's something that, we talked about through the process, and how, we could expedite that a little bit with CSV uploads and things like that Rob and his team were able to help with. But yeah, those were the two big things for us, was figuring out how do we make sure we get the right ads on the page, and we think about, the taxonomy both now and in the future. But then secondarily, how do we get all the stuff that we don't want to lose and has to continue running on, flip cutover day, shifted over.
Yeah. That's one thing I hear from not just Boats Group, but other publishers as well. And again, kind of ad server agnostic, depending on what partner you go with. But it's kind of that crawl, walk, run sort of situation, right? It's like, step one is always, okay, do we move everything over? Do we the thing that I found is that people will bring things over almost in bunches, right? Like they'll start with a couple of pieces of inventory, make sure it works, then they'll move on to more and more. So it's not something where it's like, usually it's not flip a switch. It's a gradual sort of process that's out over either weeks or a month or a little longer, right? Like, and I think with boats it was the same way. I don't think it was an instant switch. It was something where it took a little bit of time to move over. So now that you're kind of on a different platform, though, and there's a little bit difference in transparency, and there's a difference in performance data and things like that, has it changed how you sell or price your inventory at all?
So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's changed how we priced our inventory. But I would say the way that we package and sell our display is more along the lines of share voice type campaigns, right? Because again, we have a lot of customers that are hyper focused on certain geographic areas with certain types of boats and things like that, right? So we package it more that way. But I could see how that could happen based on performance increase, right? Ads load faster, which means that it's a better experience, and the ads are there when sometimes they weren't before. So we've seen some improvements in click-through rate and things like that. So depending upon how you structure the way that you sell your campaigns, there could be the potential to be able to do that. But for us, we didn't really. It was we were getting the same type content in roughly the same areas, just faster and with more flexibility.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Looking back now that, the migration is done, is there anything you would have done differently? I'm just going to move the slide ahead while we keep talking, but yeah.
Yeah, no, sounds good. There was no big major gotchas, I would say. I think,
moreover, like, let's say there's a publisher here who's like in the back of their mind, they're like, you know what? We really could move off of GAM. We haven't justified it. And if they look at you and you're like, I've just done it, here's what I would recommend. What would you recommend?
Yeah. So yeah, if you're putting in terms of be super organized and have a plan that you are in exact alignment with whichever partner you choose to go with. Obviously, if you're in the same boat that we were in terms of having a lot of campaigns to transition over, if the plan isn't tight and the communication and what expectations aren't right, again, one, it can cause challenges with. I'll give an example. I think, Rob, out of the gate, we had talked a little bit in the beginning about the flexibility of native, but I think we went through an initial run where we set up some ad tags and we started to work with them, and then you and the team were like, oh no, we need to tweak the way the ad tags are set up because you want to have that flexibility. So it was more like just a, kind of two ships passing in the night kind of thing. And we didn't quite get the messaging right whenever we were initially working together. No issue really on either side. But I think, just making sure that before we kind of got started, we were hyper focused on all those things. But again, that was a delay of half a day or something like that, so it's the only real thing.
Yeah, it's like that old analogy, right? Measure twice, cut once. I'll get it right eventually. Yeah, but yeah, that's exactly it. Cool. I mean, we've already talked a little bit about Boats Group, but for those that don't know, 65 million annual business. I mean, it's great. Massive, massive visitor, massive footprint, mostly direct ads. Great CTR. If anybody here is actively looking to buy a boat, definitely go hit up Seth and team. But yeah, I'm just gonna unless there's something here that I'm missing you want to throw in about your company, by all means, it's kind of like the spotlight's on you for a second here before we move along.
Yeah, no, nothing in particular. You hit on all the great spots, but yeah, absolutely. If you're looking to if you're a boater, you probably know about one of our sites. But if you're thinking about getting into it, definitely start there. We have great articles and things like that can help you get into it. So it's a great industry, great people.
Yeah. So I honestly just have, I know we're at like almost a half hour already, and I just have like a few more slides to go through, a few more questions, just things like that. Nothing too egregious. So I want to talk a little bit about audience targeting, because you mentioned like taxonomy earlier and things like that. What do you guys use for building your audiences? Like, do you use like a permutive? Do you have any sort of like CMP or things like that? Like, how do you track, or maybe you built it yourself, but what's that like first party data look like for you guys?
Yeah, so for us, it's pretty simple, honestly. We have in the past, we've worked with permutive actually, but overall, it's pretty simple. You have a person who is potentially looking to buy something in a geographic region, and it is a certain type of boat. And obviously, the boats are pretty distinct. So you're targeting a very specific person. So for us, it's very simple. The boat you're looking at, or the boat you're searching for, what are you searching for in what area? And we know our customers want to put their branding and put their inventory there. So for us, it's really simple. It's just passing through from our data layer what someone's searching for or what type of boat they're looking for. I mean, in the past, again, we've used permutive to build some audience segments and things like that. But things are so straightforward for us that we just have a very simple taxonomy that we build out to in order to deliver the right ads at the right time. Obviously, there's a lot of other publishers out there that do a lot more complex things, but we're able to be pretty cookie cutter because it's a fairly simple transaction.
Yeah, you raise an interesting point, and I don't know. People might think they're complicated, but at the end of the day, they're really not, right? Like the idea of having over here, Scobie. Look at that! There you go. That's awesome. So yeah, like people, I've heard this from not just yourselves, from other people in the past as well. They're like, oh, maybe not. Well, it's great because you actually said like we don't have a super complicated first party data. But I've heard other customers say like, oh, it's a really robust, it's super complicated. And then you go looking into, dig in a little deeper, and they're like, oh, we target whether or not the user is logged in or logged out, or we target based on what the user is searching for. Like it's all very standardized stuff. Whether you do it with a like a permutive or somebody like that, or you build it yourself and you just have your own database and you track whether they're logged in and logged out. Like, I guess ad ops people may look at that and go, oh, that's really complex, but really that's like bread and butter of being able to do, first party audience targeting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just being able to have something available server side that you can pass through a simple value.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Logged in
Exactly.
Y or equals Y or N, and you can easily pass that through and target it. So it's all things like that are fairly simple.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So like I've talked to other publishers and they're like, oh, it's pretty complicated. And then they start breaking it down. And sure, it sounds complicated at first, but then you're like, it's just a glorified key value pair. If you're logged in, yes or no, is it a yacht, or are they buying, a bass boat or something, right? Yeah. So cool. Let me move on to the, let's see. We already kind of covered some of this stuff. Yeah. So, obviously this doesn't necessarily apply to, the Boats Group. This is more just me picking on GAM, but obviously, they're in the news, things are happening. I wanted to get your sense of thoughts here, Seth. Like, if the DOJ decides to split them up and like say, hey, Google, you have to divest. You have to. I got caught reading the comments now, but you have to divest Google Ad Manager and things like that. Like, do you see a world in which you think it makes sense for more publishers to move away? Like, I'm just from your point of view. Let's say you decided to jump ship. You're not a jump ship. You're not at Boats anymore. You've gone to another publisher and things like that. I just made myself laugh at my own joke. Anyway, not hard to tell I'm a dad, socks and sandals sort of guy. But like, let's say you were somewhere else, right? You're a publisher here who's thinking about it, and they're not tied to that GAM. They're not tied to GAM for AdX or whatever. Would you do it? Would you do it again? I guess what I'm trying to say is, would you do it again? If you had to do it all over, would you do it again?
Yeah, the caveat that I would put out there is every single company is different, right? And everyone's needs of their customer base is different. So I think it's hard to paintbrush every scenario to be the same. But if I'm walking into a situation anywhere similar to what I am, absolutely, I would do it again. And I'm going to beat the drum again of the ability to be a partner with some folks that maybe aren't quite at the same scale as what GAM is. Being able to have a team that we partner with, and we're able to bounce ideas off of, and we're able to continuously grow and change what our product offering potentially looks like because we have someone that we can work closely with, has been a game changer for us. So I would say probably in most instances, yes, I would make that decision because the benefit of that outweighs much else in my perspective.
Awesome. Well, I think we're kind of at the QA stage in terms of like, hey, chat, do you have any questions? Are you looking to buy a bass boat and you have some questions or for Seth particularly? If there's any boating questions, you can send it that way. If there's ad tech questions, you can send it my way.
Yeah. Been loving the interaction in the chat, especially recently. You guys are having me cracking up back here too.
Yeah, I know. I'm over here trying to keep a straight face. And Dan and Jared are like, come on, guys.
Dan again, no emoji for bass boats, bass boats.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but again, thank you, Rob and Seth. You guys did amazing. We do definitely have a couple more minutes for questions. I did see a couple popped in. So if any of you guys have any questions or comments, maybe people in the audience have comments of how they're thinking of moving some reliability off GAM, or even some commentary on what they talked about previously, or any questions of your own, feel free to add them and I'll try to keep out for them. This first one that I see in the chat, I do see you did kind of touch on a little bit what kind of you were first thinking as you moved off GAM, but they got a little bit more specific. So for publishers thinking about moving off GAM, where should they start? Benchmarking, running parallel tests, or building their own ad server strategy?
Yeah, so I think we went the path of running parallel tests and benchmarking results versus GAM. We ultimately ended up picking a page on one of our fairly highly trafficked sites, but not our highest traffic site. And we ran, I want to say it was maybe at 10 or 15%, ran a test for, a week maybe. And we hyper focused it in certain areas, so we didn't end up messing up any of our customers' campaigns, but we were able to see, how did GAM perform versus the other. We tried to run obviously similar ads to remove different variables, but that was the first thing we did to make sure that we were able to prove all the things that we thought we were going to get off transition. We did. And then obviously from that point, once we knew that the technology was going to do what we needed it to do, then we transitioned into building out that plan for the transition.
Yeah. Before I move into the next section, one thing that I had in my mind is I was curious if you guys were doing parallel testing, especially now that you did. Was there anything that surprised you about that parallel testing with the results? Anything? Because I know people have been so reliant on GAM for so long. Was there anything not being so reliant, especially since how much people relied on it before, kind of surprised you about the results from that testing?
I wouldn't necessarily say we saw a little bit of an uptick in click-through rate, which we weren't sure, right? Again, the ads are going to load faster, but does that truly mean you see a little bit of an uptick? So we did see a little bit of an uptick there, but the rest is kind of what we were sold on in terms of going server side. So it wasn't overly surprising because we went in with the sole focus of, we need the ads to deliver the way we need them to, right? Like the targeting needs to work, but outside of that, the ads need to get there faster, and the page needs to fully paint faster, and we were able to prove that out pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking along the lines of transition, were there some unexpected challenges that kind of came with Boats.com transitioning, either being technical, operational, culturally with your team about using different ad servers, anything like that?
No, there really wasn't. The team was pretty open. We had a good team that had kind of worked on some ad things before too. Again, it's not like we have an ad team here. It's a big part of what we do, but the marketplace is our core functionality. But we had some folks that had worked on it before, so we had a good line of communication. Good old Slack channels and things like that amongst the teams helped to really make it be a really smooth test and then a smooth transition.
Absolutely. And I see we got James and Dan from the chat into our Q&A section. First, from James, it's possible to request ads from GAM server side using tagless requests. Did you consider that option and rule it out?
We looked into it. We looked into it briefly, but ultimately, again, I kind of sound a little bit of like a broken record, but one of the things that we looked at was, well, one was the flexibility, but then two was just we were ready to have that partnership. We were ready to be able to have somebody that we could work with a little bit more closely and be a little bit more agile in terms of what we were doing. And again, we've been able to get really good feedback, talk about potential ideas for products and cool new things we'd love to do down the road. And again, we were really never able to get that consistently before. So while there may have been a path at staying where we were, there were other factors that we considered that made us move the direction that we did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I can't really speak to like the boats I guess integration with GAM and tagless, just kind of my experience from other pubs, right? Tagless doesn't completely eliminate the client side dependency that exists, right? There are still other like integration layers, like your identity system, or if you're going to go with like pre-bid and stuff like that, there's still some client side stuff that needs to exist for the most part. But then you're also, again, still tied to the GAM auction logic. If AdX wants to come in and bid against your inventory, you still have that. You still give up the control, right, that you don't get by having, a different solution, whether it's AdButler or Kevel or EPOM or somebody else like that, right? You're still giving up A, your data, and B, control, any way you look at it, whether you're going client side or server side.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another question, was there a drop off in eCPM moving off AdX, or was there a drop off there?
So this is where we might be a bit unique to some of the folks here attending, is that we fully moved away with the change. We sort of fully moved away from programmatic. So the CPM went from what it was before to nothing, because we decided our fill rate was pretty high. We had a fairly decent strategy for what house ads or what backfill could look like. So we moved away from that model. So yeah, I'm not a good person to compare there, because we don't have a comparison point.
My favorite type of customer, just saying, by the way. Just saying.
We did it just for Rob. We did it just for Rob.
I don't know. Like, I think for me, like, my big thing is the more you automate, the less people are involved. I mean, we're moving into a world where AI is so big, so popular. Like agentic shopping is out, and like we're, as an ad tech company, we're now going like, okay, well, how do we start getting the metadata from pages so that, when AI agents come, we show relevant ads to the AI this time, right? We're solving for that. But at the same time, there's something to be said for that human, like for two humans to sit down and go, this is what's going to make the most money for you, for both the publisher and and what's the best bang for your buck for that brand, for that advertiser. There's something to be said for that human connection that I've always I don't know if it's just because I like people somewhat, right? But there's something to be said for that human connection that you miss when you go to just purely programmatic, and there is no. I guess I just miss the old like wine and dine and just I don't want to say it's nostalgia, right? But there is something to be said for knowing who you're working with, especially when you talk about brand safety and stuff like that, right? Like that's a massive thing where when you know who you're working with, There's nothing better, right? You can charge more. You know what you're getting. Like there's something, whether it's an agency in the middle or whatever, you just know there's trust. There's a different level of trust you can get there that doesn't exist in a pure programmatic play. I'm with you, James. Yeah, I mean, most whether it's AdButler or other ad servers that are out there, yeah, we all do, CPC, CPA, CPV. Like auction logic shouldn't just be based on CPM. Most of our like retail customers, as an example, don't do anything in the CPM space. It's all CPC based, right? Just because that's the nature of the business. You want to sell products, right? So I mean, if you're looking at alternatives to GAM and you're married to CPM, I would say go somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're running on time, but we do have one more question that we can finish off with. Did you ever implement a supplemental GAM to add AdX back into the mix when the fill is low?
No, we have not yet done that. Like we've toyed around with the idea a little bit on some of our sites that are maybe a little bit lower traffic, just testing to understand what the world looks like. Almost like I'm somewhat curious, just because again we went from having it and being in that world to fully not being in that world, but it's not something we've done. Like I said, for our all of our sites, our sell-through rate is fairly high because of the way we sell and package our ads, and where it's not, we are able to offer house ads that can be beneficial to site users. So we haven't done that yet.
I have seen customers that have, though, that where they've switched ad servers, they've moved to like AdButler. They set up their direct deals first, so they're paid sponsorships. They have a CPM or CPC or CPV auction, and then if none of that fills, then they run GAM as a third-party ad tag through AdButler. Right. And then it still falls back down to like giving GAM and AdX the last chance to run through it. Right. The thing is, it's kind of like it's that old school traditional waterfall where they get kind of like last look. And the goal eventually, hopefully, if the DOJ gets their way, is that AdX would bid against the rest of your providers. Right. You can only get that right now when you're married to GAM. All right. But if they open up AdX and AdX can be a bidder in somebody else's stack, we're all going to profit.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I said one last question, but I did see one more pop in. I think it's a great question. With the shift to a new platform, were you able to consolidate web and email campaigns? We currently use GAM for web and Live Intent for newsletters.
Okay, let me read that one more time. I was looking at Dan's question up above around wrapping.
I was gonna leave that one,
which made me giggle. Well done, Dan.
But with the shift to a new platform, were you able to consolidate web and email campaigns? We currently use GAM for web and Live Intent for newsletters.
Yeah, so what I would say is I'm not a good person to answer that, because we don't do as much on the like the email or newsletter side of things. Most of ours is on the digital side, is on the portal side rather. So any of the emails that we have that are sent out are generally content based for our customers and our site users, and we actually don't do a ton of advertising there. But Rob, if you can speak to potentially how you guys
I mean absolutely, right. You guys may not, but most other ad platforms that are out there, AdButler included, have different offerings, right? So we've got the display, we have SDKs for mobile apps, we've got email ad serving integrations for. This is where I'm going to wear my sales hat and tout AdButler for just like the next 10 seconds. But email ad serving, video ad serving, shoppable video, in-app SDKs, web, all of that fun stuff. You can just and then kind of amalgamate into one platform. There we go. Sales hat off.
See, no session without a little bit of shameless self promo. I'm not mad at you.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. I think if we're ever going to do this again, we need to do the Hot Ones challenge, by the way. I'm hooked on watching that show. And I'm like, this would be so fun in the ad tech space where we just eat hot wings and see who cries first.
I'm obsessed with that show and I really want to do it, but I'm afraid to because I know I'll be.
Oh, I'm so here for it. If you ever do it, bring me as a guest. I'm down.
I was about to say next AdMonsters event, we got you.
I'm there. I'm so there.
Yes, absolutely. And before we sign off, we did have a funny question from Dan that we can kind of end things off on. Does Boats Group have an interest in wrapping a base boat for a 300 boat tournament in February at Pickwick? JK.
Listen, I'm going to answer that. That's not my department. That I'm an operations guy. That sounds like marketing, but we have a great group there. If you want to reach out, Dan, and see if there's interest there. I'm just the lowly
That's
operations guy. So yeah.
Yes.
You're never just anything.
Yes, absolutely. Well, again, thank you, Rob and Seth, for this amazing webinar and for your insights. Really appreciate hearing you guys' perspective, and I know the audience did as well. And before we sign things off, I have to do my own little shameless self-promo. This weekend, this next week, coming up November 2nd and 4th, we have AdMonsters' next Sell-Side Summit in Austin, Texas. We have amazing sessions coming up similar to this, and we also have a similar session as well that I'll be moderating in our breakout, kind of talking about how some other publishers are moving away from some over-reliance on GAM. So definitely come and see for that. We have a QR code here, save 50% off using the code FRIEND50. I hope to see you in Austin, and anyone joining us already, excited to see you there. Thank you again for joining us for the webinar. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.